All right. So today's episode of Ology has to do with cover songs. It's COVERS-ology. And when I came up in the late 1900s, like 1990s there, covers were kind of a dirty word. There was a real emphasis on original material. How much original material did you have? Did you have enough for a half an hour opening set? Did you have enough for a full set? And it just seemed like people were really prioritizing original material. Every time a new artist would come out, they would be hailed as this great new original voice, as if the only way to be original was to write your own songs. And certainly as a songwriter myself, I'm all about writing songs. But I feel like the cover song has gotten a really bad rap over the years. And certainly it can be done kind of lazily. It can be done kind of cynically, too, in a way. But it can also be really transformative and really amazing. It can bring a new audience to not just the artist that is covering the song, but to the artist that they're covering. People might not have heard of that artist before, and so there's a lot of great things about cover songs. I do and have done an annual cover show at Club Passim in Cambridge for. I've lost track of the years at this point. It's over 15 years, I believe. And it's cover songs in the round with my friend Jake Armerding, Zachariah Hickman. For a long time, 10 years, it was Laurie McKenna. And then several years ago, today's guest for COVERS-ology took over Laurie's spot and has done an amazing job. And she's an artist that writes amazing songs of her own and is also really insightful and just a great cover, just a great artist, great cover artist as well. What am I trying to say? My brain is frying. I'm going to bring her in now. I got to go back and find her. Let's see. I should really do a Google search on this before this happens. Oh, there it is. Boom. Those cousins. There she is. Hey there.
No, I got on, and then you froze, and then I just shut it down, and then I just shut everything down, and then I shut my other computer, and I shut the other computer to make sure all the Wi-Fi was just being funneled into the ding-dong here, and so I'm back.
The Wi-Fi funneling into devices. Every time I have something in my board, nobody can be on the Wi-Fi, and everyone, my whole job has gone away, but what few things that I do, everyone is so pissed off at me for doing because of
Dad! Yeah. I feel like you've got some. Oh God.
What? You feel like I have some what?
Special lighting.
I do.
Yeah.
I can't turn it around and show you because I got a whole thing here. I got some notes off. I do like 15 minutes of like hardcore prep before this, and then I get on Instagram Live and I can't form a complete sentence. But that's just life. It is good to see your face.
Yeah, you too.
And there's so many things that I'm sure we could have talked about, but cover songs is I think is a pretty appropriate thing because we do them every year, and we both have a way with them. And I guess what I was wondering was, did you start out covering songs before you wrote your own songs?
Yeah, I was actually thinking, just listening to you kind of talk off the top, that like the way that I groomed myself for live performance was open mics.
Yeah.
And I didn't sing an original song until like 5 years into playing open mics. So I would just like all the songwriters that I was obsessed with, I would just like learn their entire catalogs and pick songs that I wanted to cover, and most likely that people would know. And sometimes I would bring in an Indigo Girls song that people wouldn't know necessarily. And
fires in the house.
Yeah. So yeah, covers are a huge part of like grooming to be a performer, and a huge part of my current career. There isn't a show that I play where very rarely where I don't play a cover, even if I only have 5 songs in an opening set. Yeah, I love covers.
Who were the artists that you were covering when you were starting out?
Like early in my open mic days, I was doing like Sarah McLachlan, Tracy Chapman. I definitely did like Black Boys on Mopeds by Sinead, and yeah, Indigo Girls, lots of Indigo Girls. And then other songs that I would find that might be random, but mostly the ones I was listening to. Deb Talon, Patty Griffin,
yeah,
Sean Colvin, yeah. I mean, I feel like there's certain people who taught me certain things about playing music, and I would always say that like Joni Mitchell and Sean Colvin and Ani DeFranco taught me about alternative tunings and rhythm. I spent a lot of time with those women without them even knowing. So covering music is like the way that I learned music, because I don't read music. I don't have a relationship through theory. I just have a relationship through listening, it resonating with me, and me wanting to sing it.
That's such a great point, because I'm the same way. I mean, I've kind of backed into a little bit of being able to communicate through like the language of, the national numbering system and like charts and stuff. But I really know anything formal about music. But man, listening to those songs and just kind of burning them into your brain and then trying to kind of filter them through your bedrock and see what comes out the other side. It was huge, right? I mean, when I was the Counting Crows first record just came out, and it didn't hit right away, but I remember seeing something in Rolling Stone about it, and I went out and got it, and was just like blown away. And I started singing Mr. Jones at all the coffee houses, and to this day, for people in those 2 or 3 years around me at college will reach out to me and be like, I still heard Counting Crows, for the first time. I thought that was your song, like and I wasn't even interpreting it at that point. I was just trying to sing it,
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is part of the process. First, is like, you may sound different when you first start covering songs, but that may be only because you might be just starting out. You may be very limited.
Yeah. I was thinking that like when you're in the learning process of learning how to play guitar, it was like, it's more of a replication. It's like, can I replicate this song in its structure, in its lyrics, and for the most part, the melody? And then my relationship with a cover song now is to like Rose Cousins weasel my way into it and reinterpret how I hear it. And a lot of times for me has been like, I hear the song completely different. Like, I experience it completely different. Like, it obviously resonated with me. Like, as you know, I always usually pick a song from the 80s for our cover shows. Mm-hmm. Something that everyone will recognize, but then reinterpreting it. And people are like, how do I know this? I know this song. What is it? But then you hear it completely differently. You hear the lyrics in a different way. But at the beginning, it's a replication process.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but for me, I learned a whole lot about just the architecture of songs, about how songs are put together.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you've got your standard like verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus, out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then when you get back into like classic country music, usually is where I first heard it, like Willie Nelson stuff. If you listen to a song like Crazy,
mm-hmm.
There's no chorus. There's like a tagline at the end of every verse, and then there's that B section, or whatever you want to call it. I used to call it a bridge, but it seems weird to have 2 bridges. But that worry, I said, I let myself worry. Thinking of that structure of the song, I was like, what do you even call that? And before I knew what to call it, I obviously still don't. I started thinking like, well, how could I write songs like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like that form. And so that was the other thing that I got from cover songs is just like an appreciation of song structure and the architecture underneath all the songs and all the different ways you could put them together.
Totally.
On, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like the songs that you learn from other people kind of, you know, then you're like, okay, well, here are the permissions, and then you realize that there aren't really any permissions, and then you kind of can do whatever you want in whatever structure you want. There is a classic pop structure or country structure. There's, you know, and the pop one has evolved, you know, over the last little while to like get to it quicker. But yeah, like I was just thinking while you were just talking about the asymmetrical or kind of different structures than the classic structure of a song is like as a performer and a writer, and which you and I are both. So when we're writing a song, we're setting up a pathway for us to deliver it to the people. Mm-hmm. And how it's kind of like you take somebody's ear by the hand and bring them through whatever story you're telling them. And sometimes there's an A section and a B section, you know, like you're saying, or from like you're so good at choruses, and I'm like a garbage person at choruses, except for like one word, which, you know, I just repeat one word over and over with a really long note. But I've done choruses where you don't get to the chorus until the end, and then it's repeated twice, or like a refrain that's repeated at the end. I mean, you do that too. Yeah, I don't want to get into talking about our own writing because this is about covers.
No, but it's a continuum, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Difficult maybe to figure out where one ends and one begins. I mean, the notion of permission that you were talking about there, it really resonates with me because, you know, you can't break the rules until you know them. Like, you don't have to be schooled in, you know, deeply schooled in music theory, but it does help to be familiar with the general outline of what, you know, how people put songs together in different genres.
Yeah.
Do it, and then you can explode it. You know, that's what Bob did. You know, but he knew what a talking blues was before he really, you know, kicked the walls out and showed us what else it could be.
Yeah, it's kind of like learning all the different possibilities and then figuring out which one that you want, and also having the more things that you know, then you can say, today I'm going to sit down and write a pop song, and the structure should be like this. It doesn't often sway. You're going to write a Mark Corelli song, it can be whatever you want. You're going to attempt to write, you know, knowing what the different genres do and kind of the different structures that are permissible. But also it's kind of cool when things that are not in necessarily a classic shape make it to the mainstream. I wish I had like a really good example right now, but yeah. And I mean, that morphs and changes all the time. But yeah, knowing all the different ways that you can, and I don't know if there is a limited number of ways that songs can be written, but man, if you listen to a diverse amount of, like, I think about the person, the entirely different person and whole person that she was and is herself, on like Ani DeFranco, throwing kind of all structure for anything out. She's like a vessel for her own poetry. Yeah. And that doesn't need a specific structure at all for you to get the point. So I think it depends on what the song is its intended purpose, maybe.
Ani come up, you know, repeatedly here because I was a big Ani DeFranco fan. I am, but starting in college, and I've tried for probably a decade to figure out an Ani song for our cover shows, and I have not found a way in yet. I think some of that might have to do with just how ultra personal and how singular to her voice so much of her songs are. I mean, that is what drew, you know, it just felt like getting to know this really kind of highly individual person. Mm-hmm. But then when I go to try and sing, you know, one of her songs, I have not found a way in yet. I wanted to talk about the process of how we find our way into the cover songs. Do you, you know, once you've chosen one, mm-hmm. Is there a pattern, or is there a way that you kind of get into it, or does it kind of change depending on the material?
I think it probably depends on the song, but I would try what I would find it on the keyboard. I would find where it is. Print off the lyrics and find where it is, and then find my way in. And a lot of times, like Rose Cousinsifying is slowing it down and making it as sad as possible. That's my forte, and that's okay. I accept that. Because I think in presenting a song like that in a different way, especially if it is an upbeat song, lets you see the rest of it. Whereas like when if you're listening to the radio and there's so many songs from, the 80s where it's like, I don't know the name of the band, but I could literally sing along on the radio. I don't know.
Right.
So it's like those songs that are familiar, but I wasn't like a big fan of the band, and it might be an upbeat. Oh, like for example, Separate Ways, Journey.
Yeah.
Like dun, 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 and they're like keyboards on the walls and stuff in the video. And I think I played that at a cover shows, like one of my earliest cover shows, and I just took it right down to because if you think about the sentiment, it's devastating.
You took it down to the studs, Rose.
It took it right down to the bone, and it does make you feel it in a different way. Sam's synthesizers.
Totally. I think that's a really interesting. It brings up an interesting thing to me, which is, I think when you slow stuff down, what you often do is you kind of decouple it from the rhythm.
Yes.
I think rhythm is such a pre-intellectual way of experiencing and appreciating music.
Totally.
You can key in on the rhythm, and it can that's enough to hold you on a certain kind of level, and you don't have to think about the lyric, the melody.
Exactly. You miss things. You don't know you're missing it.
Yeah, and I think that's like, Born in the USA would be a perfect example. I'm not talking about like a cover of it, but, back when Reagan used that as his, tried to use it as his campaign theme song, I'm sure that all they were hearing was "Born in the U.S." That big.
Well, I think the majority of people who listen to that song, that's all they know. They only need, like, the truth is that most people don't need as much from music that you and I do. Like, I need it to be like a full meal. I need each food group to be like, and for me also, it's like that. You tend to do more upbeat stuff just generally. You're incredible at the ballad. Love me a Marcarelli ballad. And I love me a Marcarelli cover interpretation. Don't Give Up on Me by Solomon Burke is like, you doing that is just kills me.
That's such an example that you highlight there, because that's an example of one that I don't change anything, other than I just don't sing it quite as well as he does. But I just was like, I want to see if I can do that gymnastic routine. Like, I want to see. And also, in that one, I'm trying out a new voice, like, I'm not a black soul singer, that's just not me.
Yeah.
And yet I love that kind of music. And there was part of me that wanted to find a way to deliver it credibly and to have people enjoy it. And maybe people hadn't heard that record. That's for us, it's a huge record, that Don't Give Up on Me record. But
yeah.
A lot of people might not have heard it, but that was one where, like, I just didn't play it live for the longest time because I thought, well, I'm not bringing anything new to this. And then when he passed, I thought, well, he's not even around to sing it this way anymore. Like, it should be sung in some way,
Yeah.
So that's when I started doing it. But for me, when I get into a song, and I'm covering some songs tonight for this live stream that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
7 o'clock on Facebook. And I have found it fascinating, songs that I have thought I knew front and backwards. When you start to try and sing them, you have to figure out where in your key, your range to seat it. Like you were saying, finding it on the piano is the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, like, how to deliver the lyric. Like, where do you breathe? It's not just like remembering the words and singing them, with an investment of emotion. It's like,
yeah,
how do you breathe? I'm covering this Laurie McKenna song, and I'm like, how does she get this line all the way out before she takes a breath? I feel
That's
like I'm
surprising coming from you, because you literally, I don't understand how you hit most of the notes that you hit. Like, you're like up in my range, and I'm like, get out. You need to occupy some lower areas. Like, quit it.
singing it in her key as like a fun little challenge, and I think it's just everything's a little bit
Yeah. Yeah, so I would never like choose someone else's key and attempt it like you. I was just something about that what you just said made me think about how, when to breathe and how to deliver the lyric is like, I'm definitely always choosing covers that I am like, when I'm delivering and I'm inside of it and I'm delivering it in the way that I experience it emotionally. So I'm not thinking about where and when to breathe and how to, like, I don't, Laura McKenna I don't know. Which song are you talking about, actually?
It's a surprise.
Oh, you can't tell me. You can't tell me. Secrets.
But that's like the start. I think about it as like an actor learning his or her lines. Like you don't just start out having memorized the whole play.
No, but by the time you're delivering it, like, I keep thinking of Constant Craving from this last year, because that's one of the ones that you did in the cover. And you delivered it like yourself. Like I wouldn't have, like it was your interpretation of Katie Lang's.
Yeah, I took a long. Speaking of interpretations, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and then there's a couple of questions here that I thought are interesting, is so on Stray Birds, your cover EP.
Yes.
The single, or whatever you want to call it, was that gorgeous cover of Gordon Lightfoot's "If You Could Read My Mind."
Yeah.
Man, I mean, that's a huge hit. Even people that have no idea who Gordon Lightfoot might be know that song. And
yeah,
as a Canadian artist, it's like a whole other level, because I know that he's just absolutely revered up there.
Mm-hmm.
I cover a song that is that iconic.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear, and it's also not one that depends on the rhythm, like we were talking about. Like, you can't just slow it down. You slow it down a little, but it's already kind of a mellow song. I'm just fascinated by how you made such an iconic, recognizable hit song sound like a Rose Cousins song. Like, was there an aha moment there? How did you find that arrangement?
Well, I didn't do it any differently than, I think I learned it for a show that I did here in Halifax years and years ago. It was deeply meaningful to a friend of mine. But I also was just like, I haven't really tried anything of Gordon Lightfoot. And so I did that. And then I got asked to sing a Gordon Lightfoot song at an award ceremony, at Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony for him. And so then I relearned it.
But you with him in the audience?
He was in the audience, and also when he got up to do his speech, my name was the first thing that came out of his mouth, and I was like, yes! And then I ran backstage to get a picture with him and his award. So yeah, I sang it to him. Oh. Yeah, no, I know. Canadian moment, right? But I don't know, I think as I was playing it and learning it and being like, this is fucking sad. This is a sad song, and it doesn't, it does have rhythm. His version does have rhythm, and I let go of all rhythm. I'm pushing and pulling through the whole thing where the moments are poignant for me and where I'm just kind of like, yeah, you don't have feelings for me anymore. I didn't even realize it, and here I am.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a nice collision of, obviously the reverence that song has and its recognizability and really connecting with it on a visceral level kind of turned out great. Yeah,
I would say that is one of my favorite covers. Just it's really hard to do that to a song that is that well known, and that it's not just like a well known song, but like the original track. It's just like a track. Like, I can hear the whole vibe in my head, and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't even want to touch that, but you just got all up in there. It's great.
Yeah.
Question here, someone Is there one album of someone else's work you would love to cover from start to finish?
That's the one. I was thinking about. So many, but I need to think about this. The one idea that I have had, I was thinking about whether it's like later in my career, maybe I'm actually already later in my career, but something that would be fun to do would be do a show that is a whole record of someone else's. And I was thinking Luck of the Draw by Bonnie Raitt would be fun to like put that whole big band together and do that record. That's just one idea. Like there's so many records that there's, maybe I would do that with like Patty Griffin as well. Like if I think about my heroes or Sean Colvin. Mm-hmm. Sean Colvin, I was thinking of this when you were talking, has really incredible covers record called Cover Girl. And it is the epitome of cover records, in my opinion. Like she's a wonderful interpreter. Patty Griffin's also incredible. It's like incredible singers being able to kind of take a version of it. But yeah, what would you do if you were going to cover a record?
This is interesting. I don't think I couldn't do it, but I would be fascinated to hear somebody cover Blue. And I know that Arc Iris has done it, and I've been, and Jossie's a friend of ours. I've got to like come clean. I'm just so nervous that I have
yeah, that's right.
Like it's hard to imagine that record being improved upon in any way.
I don't think that would be the goal. I don't think you could even start and go into anything with an improvement idea. I think that's just like cocky.
Yeah. Well, I think from like my standpoint, like translating that, if it could even be translated to a male voice and a male perspective, could be interesting. Or not,
I'm immediately like, I don't want to hear a man sing it. I'm not interested. But I also revere that record. If there's anyone who should try, it would be you. But I love you. But I also don't think you should.
No. I've done a couple songs from it, but I'm just thinking of like whole records that just are so iconic. Other full records that I would want to cover. A big record for me growing up was this record by Chris Whitley called "Living with the Law." I'm also not sure that could really be covered.
Patty Griffin's "Impossible Dream" is one of my favorite records. I love that. A Few Small Repairs by Sean Colvin. These are like top records. I'm talking like a record that you don't want to move. You're not going to move it. You're not going to skip a track.
Yes. Totally. Oh, here's the question, Rose. What would you choose? A, dying, or B, covering a Kesha song?
Whose comment is it? I would die.
Pixel's notes. I don't know. Is there something that I'm not?
Somebody knows that I don't like Kesha.
I see. All right. Someone's asking. Oh, Mike is asking me. What's been my favorite song that I covered at a passing cover show?
Oh man. You know what I was thinking about this, and just not to interrupt your question, but like just the John Prine song that you did, and just like the sadness attached to the we wouldn't have known, but like oh.
I know that actually was a meaningful moment for me, and that was one where I was like, I'm not really changing this at all. I'm not like recontextualizing it or anything, but it felt important to me to do just as like a payment of respects or something. That was a really good moment. Someone mentioned earlier the Beck song Deborah that I did one year. I don't know if that was before.
It was before me, I think.
On board. Do you know that song? It's like super high falsetto.
Maybe if I heard it.
Like, I can't even sing it right now, but that was one that was just like, I don't think I can do this, and then I couldn't believe I did it. The other one that I really loved was the Roberta Flack one, the "Killing Me Softly." That was really fun.
That is a good. That was a good example of reinterpretation. Like, yeah. What's the Dawes song that you do on the Barnstar record too? I really love that one.
Oh yeah, When My Time Comes. That's a good cover. If I'm speaking objectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love singing. And that's the other thing about covers. And I don't know, it's not kosher to admit this, and we don't really mean it literally. But I will go out on a limb and just say, like, when I hit upon a good arrangement for a cover, like, for all intents and purposes, especially in the moment of performance, like that, it just feels like my song.
Oh, totally. I think that it should. I mean, I don't think that you can deliver it. I don't think you can deliver something with authenticity if you don't put yourself inside of it. And yeah, I mean, I think that's, for me, that's the whole point. Like, people don't need songs replicated, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, some people do. Maybe if you're going to a bar and it's like, like a pub or something and there's a cover band, it's different. For me, I want to get inside of it in a different way and hear it. Like, I want to hear you. Yeah. I mean, because I love your voice. I want to hear your interpretation of it. And I'm into, like, completely, yeah, I don't know. I also like to cover things that are not necessarily really well known, like being introduced to songs in that way as well.
But like a song evangelist, like totally. Like, I think there's a really cool thing where you're covering like maybe a song from yesteryear that was a hit or something, and you're recontextualizing it or slowing it down, making it sad, and then there's that aha moment, like when people realize what you're doing. That is totally cool, and I love that. But I also love covering songs by way of introducing people to it, and sometimes you don't even realize you're introducing folks. Like, I did a whole record of Bill Morrissey songs, and I thought, like, I'm just going to get crap for being an imposter and not having like the kind of life experience that he was able to invest in them. And I can't tell you how many people were like, yeah, I had no clue who Bill was, or I'd never heard that song of his.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's, as lovers of song and lovers of good songwriting, I think that's a really important aspect of covering. It's just like shouting it from the mountains, like.
I forgot. Someone just said Galileo was so great. I forgot that you did that. That was fucking crazy.
Yeah. The Indigo Girls were huge for me. They showed me. I mean, I just didn't know. I didn't really know what to think when I heard them the first time, and yet I learned their songs were some of the earliest songs I learned. I mean, Closer to Fine. That's as close to a campfire standard from our generation as ever been written.
Totally.
That's like Paradise by John Prine or something, for its own generation. Like, there's just everyone of a certain ilk knows that.
Yeah.
What are some of, as we kind of wind down here, what are some of your favorite covers that have been put out? Like, just do any come to mind as like kind of truly spectacular versions of songs?
Well, like speaking back to that Sean Colvin Cover Girl record, when she did Heart of a Saturday Night.
Yeah.
Is that Tom Waits?
Yep.
It is. And I mean, Sean Colvin to me is one of the best cover, and actually this is a great point. So I love Sean Colvin's whole catalog. I followed her, ever since I would have come in on, I think Live 88 was the first album and I was just like, this is the bar for live performance. And so interesting to listen to it now because I hear more of the mistakes. But what was the point that I was going to make? That Covers record is so incredible. And this is what I'm going to say. There are records that I listen to of hers and I thought that all the songs were original. And they're not. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought this was a Sean Colvin song. I mean, it is, because she sings it and it's entirely hers. Yeah. It sounds like I think that's probably a great sign. Like, I sing Shake, Laurie McKenna's Shake, all the time. And people think that's one of my songs. And I'm like, great. I may not even tell you that it's Lori's.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sean Colvin to me is one of the greats, and one of the newer people would be Madison Cunningham, who is just a ferocious guitar player and singer, and I don't even know what to do with her. She kind of makes me angry a little bit.
Yeah, she's really good. Is she covering songs that I don't know about? Is she?
She's doing a whole series of covers that will make you angry.
Okay, and I don't. Yeah, her debut. I think it's her debut record that came out like last year or something. That's an incredible record.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite covers. It's funny because I think of covers as being done by like songwriters. Like there's people that aren't really known as songwriters that kind of only sing other people's songs or primarily sing other people's songs, and those interpreters, but they're every bit as valid, I guess, as the cover song. But there's an Aretha Franklin. I mean, she could sing anything, right? But there's an Aretha Franklin cover of the band's "The Weight" with Duane Allman on slide guitar. That if you've never heard it, it's just so greasy, and it's so good, and it's so her. I mean, she was there was only one Aretha, of course, and only ever will be, and she could only sound like herself. But then in the background, there's Duane Allman sounding like his own self on his voice on his guitar, and the two of them, that's one of my favorites. My list has a lot of female artists for some reason on it, but Joan Osborne did an amazing cover of Bob Dylan's "Man in the Long Black Coat," which was on her first, I think her like major label debut record, that one with "What If God Was One of Us" and all that stuff. So
I didn't get past it.
There's some really good stuff on that record. And then I guess another one of my favorites is, Emmylou's "Wrecking Ball" record.
Can't even talk about it.
Right? Maybe we shouldn't.
No, it's so good. I was just thinking about, I could literally talk about this forever, but there was a Sarah Siskin song that Margaret Glaspie covered, and I almost died. I can't remember which one it was, but I'm not as prepared as you with a list of my favorite covers, but I know that I'm always like very leery about when I'm going to hear a cover, which is, I think I want to take great care when I present them too. Mm-hmm. I should have a list of my favorite covers, but like Sean Colvin to me is just, she's so great. That CoverGirl record really set the bar for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, she did that Police cover where she changed the gender, which I had never really been keyed into anyone doing before. And she also does "I Think You're Crazy." Oh yeah, everyone was covering that for a while, right?
Well, she did it best.
Like so many things. A queen. Rose, thank you I always tell people that this is going to be a half an hour because I don't want to scare anyone away, but I know that as soon as we start to talk, it could go forever, and we could talk about this forever, but I want to be respectful of your time and my family.
I was thinking last night, I wonder if we're actually going to get to do our cover shows this year. I kind of wonder. It's probably not, but maybe. I don't know. This is usually the way that we close out our year, everybody, is singing 16 or 17 cover songs as a band with our friends Jake and Zach, and it's definitely my favorite thing.
It's hard to imagine. I mean, I could see us doing it in an empty club and streaming it. The challenge is, you would have to just get in a car and drive down here, I guess, and that would be a pain in the neck. But if you were going to do that, I would do it. I would do it.
It'd be kind of feel kind of lame.
I know. The audience is everything.
Yeah. We need the reactions.
Yeah. I know.
To our antics.
I know. Well, I've got everything crossed that we can do that show. I'm not letting myself get too attached to any expectations on the live performance front.
Yeah, same. It's okay to take a year off too. We're gonna all still be here. We're all still making music, and it's gonna be great, and it'll be worth waiting for.
Turns out there's a lot of other important things that need to be addressed.
There's a few things that we should probably focus on. Yeah. Thank you, and I love you, and please say hello to Polly and the kids for me.
Will do. Well,
Okay.
do you have your new doggy yet?
I don't. I'm hoping that I'm going to get pictures of the actual one sometime in the next week and a half.
Okay, because if you did, I was going to make you like.
Oh my god, I wouldn't even be I would be barely talking to you. I would just be like Gucci gooing the dog.
I'll know by your Instagram feed when you get the dog.
You will know. It will be clear.
The whole grid, just puppies.
It'll be clear. Yeah.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
I hope I spill the beans too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you really. That's very personal information. Stop that.
All right. It's great to see you, Rose.
You too. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.